Another new chart type in Excel 2016 is called Sunburst, and it's similar to tree map in what it does. If you'd like to create a chart based on the data in columns A, B, and C, click here. And if you've not seen the Sunburst chart, if you're looking for it in the ribbon menu system under Insert, it's found on the same button where we find tree map. And when you first slide over that button, it says Hierarchy Chart. We don't see the other two terms until we click the down arrow. Tree map and Sunburst are similar. Click Sunburst. There it is. And here, as with tree map, you're likely to want to make that chart larger. As we see the terms here, I think you can begin to see the hierarchical relationship here that's depicted. The column A data that we see there is shown in the inner ring here. And outside of that, we see the full-time contract. And because the chart has some limitations regarding space, and sometimes we might have to reconsider some of the wording here, we see the breakout of full-time contract, half-time. But in any one of these, where are we seeing hourly? So if you look at the data in columns A, B, and C, and then look at the chart, I think you can see there's some limitations as to how this is playing out. So in some scenarios, possibly you could use abbreviations instead of these longer status words, but nevertheless, this has a role to play. It gives us some visual based on the data that we've got here. And I think anytime you're trying Sunburst, you might want to consider tree map and vice versa. So the two chart types here are very similar in what they do, but obviously the displays are different. The data in columns E, F, and G is simply a reworking of the data in columns A, B, and C. Data was copied and then resorted. So let's create a Sunburst map out of this data. Same general approach. Insert tab. There's that button for Hierarchy Chart, Sunburst. So the inner ring is representing the data in column E, the four kinds of work status that we have here. Full-time contract, half-time, hourly. And again, for staffing professionals, HR professionals, this is likely to be valuable too. But again, notice the limitations here with regard to the wording in the text. Now, possibly we could zoom back and make the chart larger and larger and larger. Within certain limits, that's going to be acceptable. We can see some of the words now, but not all of them. Nevertheless, I think you can see it's got a valuable role to play. It gives us a hierarchical picture. And you definitely want to experiment with this with possibly 4 levels, 5 levels. Again, the limitations most of the time are likely to be the text just isn't big enough to be visible. I think here this is a reasonable approach, and of course you would try to print this too, see how it turns out. We can see the strong limitation here in the hourly sector here. We just don't see the breakout there of those departments very well. So there might be a tendency here to make these bigger and bigger. Now if you click on any of the text, you could go down that path here. We could jump over to the Home tab here. Currently that's 8.5. As we slide over some of the text here, that's getting bigger. But at different times, it's going to be hiding some of the entries as well. So you have to experiment with this. But I think you can see it's a decent chart here. Always contrast it with tree map for showing a hierarchical relationship.